Out on a Limb by Eddie Coleman.
Can't. Got to rest. Must rest.
Darwin, don't leave me.
No, go away. Leave me alone.
You can't run away from me.
But I had to. This wasn't supposed to happen. I wasn't supposed to be involved in a chase. I can't run. I'm not fit. A man of my age, late 30s, all right, early 40s, shouldn't be running. Oh, sugar, I've got heartburn now. How did I get into this mess? Where to? Think, Darman, think. Where does this lead? Oh, just another rally. I can't go on, but I think I've lost her. I hope I've lost her, otherwise I'm doomed.
Darwin!
Oh, no. When I think back, I realise my nightmare began that morning when I paid a visit to Mr. and Mrs. Salmander, my first clients of the day. As you can see from the policy, Mr. Salmander.
I can't see anything. It's all in hieroglyphics, isn't it, Chula?
Yes, dear.
No, that's just a few symbols. But this part where you signed.
Signed? I signed nothing. Did I sign anything, Chula?
No, dear.
But that is your signature.
Forgive me, Mr.
Sharman. Darman Sharman.
That's a nice name.
Hush, dear. Mr. Sharman, I think you'd better leave.
I can't. I've come to collect on this policy. You've had the loan, 90,000 kroners, to be exact. And if you default on the payments, which I'm afraid you have done, then we are entitled. Sorry about this, Mrs. Salmander.
Call me Tula.
Tula, we are entitled to reclaim your husband's left leg.
His left leg? Do you have to... today?
He did sign the policy, allowing us to remove the aforementioned limb if at any time he should default on his repayments, which he has done so.
But surely...
You did enter into an agreement with the Limberex Corporation. It's all here, in black and...
And hieroglyphics.
That's as may be, but it is legally binding and the Limberex Corporation now seek a return on their investment.
Does it have to be his left leg? He's got a league game this Sunday and he needs that leg.
Yes, there are people in third world countries dependent on that leg.
That sounds like Limberex talk, Mr. Charlatan.
Sharman.
Well, whoever you are, I recognise Limberex talk when I hear it. Almost a Limberex man myself till I got wise. You'll get wise soon. They brain feed you with all that third world crap, but it isn't true. It's much more nefarious than that.
I'm sorry, I have my business and I mean to carry it out. If you'll kindly agree to prepare the leg, my associates will...
Excuse me, there appears to be some kind of mistake.
Mistake? There can't be. I checked this policy 23 times.
23 times? That smacks of inexperience. Wouldn't be your first day on the job, by any chance.
Yes, and I'm really enjoying it so far. What mistake, Tula?
This isn't my husband's policy.
It's not.
Inexperienced. Ought to give you more training.
I had plenty of training, mostly desk training. What do you mean, it's not your husband's policy?
Look, examine the small print.
He's already done so 23 times.
It can't be a mistake.
Poor chap's had a brain lapse. Perhaps you should lie down.
What have I missed?
The name, Mr. Sharman, the name on the contract is Talvin Salminder. The man you have here is his brother, Tulvin Salminder.
Talvin? But this is the same address for Talvin. How could I have made such a mistake?
Easily done. They're identical twins.
Well, it's your first day. You wanted to impress.
Hold on a minute. Chula, are you telling me that the man you kissed on the forehead when we sat down, and the man whose hand you are now holding quite firmly, is actually your husband's brother?
Are you trying to say my wife doesn't know her husband's twin brother?
But you called her dear, and you're both wearing wedding flags. There's something not right.
Don't worry yourself. If it helps, he'll be back soon.
Really? How soon?
3 years.
3 years?
He's gone abroad.
Oh, how convenient. Did he leave a forwarding address?
Yes.
No.
Yes? No? Well?
No, so alas, I'm left alone to comfort his poor wife. So, now can you see that calling at a time like this, seeking recompense for his lack of judgment, is really rather distressing? If you don't mind, I think you should leave.
I can't. A contract's been signed. I have to fulfill it.
But I'm not him. You can't touch me.
I can. You should examine the small print more closely. It pays to read it 23 times, you know. For, as blood relative of the aforesaid Talvin Salmander, I have no choice.
He can't be new. New chaps wouldn't dare.
You mustn't. It's not ethical.
But to exercise my powers on behalf of the corporation. And besides, your brother can always owe you the leg. They were stunned. Of course. They didn't think I would do it, but I had to make a mark on my first day. So it was either go on or give in. And to give in would have been disastrous. I needed this job, so I looked away and focused my mind on more pleasant things.
Limberex Corporation, 23rd floor, marketing. All those disembarking here, have a great day.
For example, I wondered about Mr. and Mrs. Salmander's choice of carpet, and why they had chosen light blue. Light blue is not a good colour. It shows up far too much dirt, and from what I could see, didn't hold splashes of red very well either. I made a mental note to speak to Deanna later, as she and I were considering new carpet for our home.
Limberex Corporation, 42nd floor, sales team. All those disembarking here, have a great day.
Not my floor, thankfully. I hadn't fancied sales. Seemed like too much hard work. I was definitely a field operative, and from today's experience, a good one. I just knew it, and so would the boss.
Limberex Corporation, 99th floor, Mr. Zeger's office. All those disembarking here, have a fabulous day.
It's not every day you get summoned to the boss of lower limb recoveries, and it's not every day it's your first day.
What can I say? What can I say?
I was lucky, Mr. Zeger.
You were lucky. We were lucky, more like, in hiring such a good fellow like you. Do you know how many crumble on their first assignment?
I could hazard...
Don't even bother. 97%. Yes, 97% let them keep their limbs. Can you believe that? Can you believe that?
I can believe that. So, I've passed my probation.
Passed it? You've excelled, Mr. Sharman.
Ah, Deanna, my wife, she'll be so pleased.
And so she should be. Fine fellow like you. You know, one day if you carry on like you are, you could be where I am. Big office, big chair, big chief in lower limb recoveries. How does that grab you?
I'm not really that ambitious.
Everyone is ambitious. They just conceal it well. You have potential. What do you say?
I don't know what to say.
Say yes. I'll take the Grotowski assignment and be gone from my office as swiftly as Mr. Salmander's left leg was removed from his lower torso.
The Grotowski assignment? What's that?
I can't hear you, Mr. Sharman. Have I gone deaf?
I'll take the Grotowski assignment. Goodbye.
Splendid. You'll make a fine head of lower limb recoveries one day. See Lehman, 53rd floor. He'll brief you.
Thank you. So I went to see Lehman, and he gave me the address of the Grotowski mansion and told me to pick up the package. I inquired, what package? He said, they'll know what you mean. Just make sure you get it. Any more clues? I said. No, he said, and then ran off. Funny for a small dwarf with a bad attitude. I'd swear there was a look of fear in his eyes. No, he probably just had a squint. The Grotowski mansion. In the daylight, it looked like a run-down version of Buckingham Palace, and that is before we sold it to the Japanese. I arrived at the front door, and, armed with the contract, which I had taken the precaution of reading 23 times, I proceeded to make my entrance. However, before I could knock on the door, my phone rang. Hello?
Hi, Darman. How's it going?
Hi, Deanna, not bad. Oh, ouch!
Is your headphone playing up again?
Hang on. That's better. Just needed to tilt my head to the left.
I don't know why you let him insert it behind your temple.
It was cheap.
Well, now that you're working, you'll be able to afford a better headset.
Yes, one of those above-the-eyebrow models.
Steady, Darman, that's a bit excessive. You don't want to spend your first wage packet before you've earned it. So, how's it going?
Mr. Ziegler, my boss, is really pleased with me.
Do you think you'll keep this job?
I've every intention of doing so. Dee? I love you. Oh, blasted headphone. I've got interference.
Love you too, Darman. Some people have been saying things about Limberex.
Can hardly hear you.
But you wouldn't be working for them if... Oh, I shouldn't be interrupting you if you're working, but...
I can hear you now. Dee?
I'd better go. Tooman wants his tea. What time will you be home? I'm thinking of cooking a leg of lamb if you're hungry.
And she was gone. A leg of lamb. I didn't have the heart to say I'd gone off leg for the moment. Just as well the phone cut out. Anyway, now was not the time for faint-heartedness. I had the Grotowski assignment to complete. Good afternoon. I'm...
I know who you are and why you have come. You do not need to waste words on me, Mr. Sharman. I'm uneducated, so I won't be needing your words. Come this way.
Thank you.
Mr. Sharman, Madam Grotowski.
Good afternoon, madam. I am...
Move into the light. She'll hear you better.
Is she without sight?
Yes, but not without sense. Come, Mr. Sharman, stand by the window. Let me feel your face.
I beg your pardon?
Do not be alarmed. Madam Grotowski often likes to feel her guests' faces.
5 minutes, Grilby. Then collect Mr. Sharman.
As you wish, ma'am.
Call me Darman. I've been told to ask...
Hush, Mr. Sharman. I need a moment. For one with such a young face, there are so many worry lines.
The worry of finding and keeping a new job, I suppose.
And you have such a sad face too, Mr. Sharman. I do hope you will cheer it up soon.
Well, I intend to. And now, about the...
Do not sit. You will not be here long.
Sorry. This package... The contract isn't very specific. I've read it 23 times.
23 times. You are a very thorough man. That is a good quality. Seller will like that.
Seller?
All in good time. 1 minute and 8 seconds to go.
That's very precise.
I'm precise with all my guests, Mr. Sharman. If I may offer you some advice.
Please do.
Limberex may have eased your worry for now, but they are not what they seem.
They seem fine to me.
Then fine they shall remain. Alas, the contract forbids me to say more. But then you should know that already, having read it 23 times. Now our time together is almost up. Before you go, let me thank you. It is most appreciated that you were able to come.
It's my job.
Some take their jobs more seriously than others. Do take good care of Seller, Mr. Sharman. Seller deserves some goodness. Ah, I hear Grilby. Right on time.
Well, nice to have met you.
The pleasure was all ours, wasn't it, Grilby?
It's not for someone in my position to comment on pleasure. This way.
Goodbye.
God go with you.
There were hundreds of steps to climb, and yet Grilby seemed hardly out of breath. The higher we climbed, the more I began to doubt my suitability for the Grotowski assignment, and the more doubt I had, the more questions I had. What was the package? Why would no one give me a straight answer? And why was I starting to sound like Sam Spade?
I beg your pardon, sir, but we are not allowed to give straight answers.
Sorry?
Excuse me, mind reading. Bad habit. My father had it, and his father had it before him. Unfortunately, being of the lowly order, none of us could do anything with it.
Mind reading? That's amazing.
It's a curse, especially if you hear the jumble that goes on inside Madame Grotowski's head most days. Nearly there, sir, and forgive me.
For what?
For wasting a few words with you. I do hope you don't mind.
No, not at all. It would be really helpful if you wasted a few words with me about the package.
We're here. Now, through that door, sir. In the centre, you'll see a stone table where Seller will explain all.
Aren't you coming in with me?
Far as I go. You'll be needing this key, sir. 3 turns to the left and 1 to the right. May I say it was a pleasure to read your mind, Mr. Spade, sir.
And then he was gone, literally racing down the steps as he went, leaving me all alone with a rusty key and a large oak door. Perhaps I should have called it a day there and then, but as Mr. Ziegler had been so impressed with my earlier efforts, I just couldn't let him down. I tried the key in the lock. 3 to the left and once to the right. It was a little stiff, but finally it opened. I was in. And there, in the centre of the room, was a large stone table, and on top, as Grilby had described, was a small box. It resembled a small coffin. For a moment I stood frozen in the doorway, unsure whether to enter. However, a low moan, coming from within the room, soon made the decision for me. Hello? Who's there?
Darman?
Who's that?
It is I, Seller. Do not be afraid.
I'm not afraid. Where are you?
All who get this far are afraid, but everyone is afraid. Only those who are brave survive.
Well, I wouldn't say I was brave. It's my first day, you see. Where are you?
I like you, Darman.
I haven't a lot of time. I've come for the package.
I know. Come forward and you will find it.
Okay. I stepped forward into the room, right up to the box. I didn't know what I would find, and as I started to shake, I wondered where Syra was, and why she hadn't shown herself. It didn't take me long to find out.
Come closer. Closer. Look in the box, Darman. I like that name.
I had to admit, I was starting to feel less afraid, especially as Syra was being so nice to me. I leant closer, and with all my courage, I lifted up the lid of the coffin-shaped box. And then, I just screamed. And screamed. Until I could scream no more.
Am I so hideous, Darman? Please do not be scared. You are unique and much more handsome than I expected.
I really wanted to scream again, but I couldn't. Not after I'd just been paid 2 lovely compliments from a talking arm. But you're just
An arm. An arm, Darman, yes. One of many limbs you will come across during the course of your employment with Limberex.
But you talk.
Of course. How else can I get you to trust me? Please, Darman, forget your prejudice and think of me like a pickle in a jar, lovingly preserved until the time I'm needed.
I wanted to be sick. Not only was Syra an arm, she was an arm with a hand attached to it, and both arm and hand were lying neatly and snugly on a fluffy pink cushion. The exact same type of cushion that Deanna and I had bought just a few days previously. Unwittingly, I found myself making a mental note to remind Deanna to get rid of those cushions.
Take me to them.
To them?
It is your assignment. It is my destiny.
And then Syra began to twitch and move and start to climb off her cushion. And that's when I panicked and fled. Yes, fled like a child. Out of the door, down those stairs, past Madame Grotowski, who shook her head, past Quilby, who smiled, and out of the door as fast as my legs would carry me, out into the street, and behind me. I could hear it coming after me. No, this wasn't supposed to happen. It wasn't meant to be like this. I can't run. I'm not fit. A man of my age, late 30s, all right, early 40s, shouldn't be running from a talking limb.
Darman.
And I tried to run, but I couldn't. I was too worn out. The shock, the exertion, and the fact that one limb could beat both of mine soon had me falling to the ground in a state of mental and physical exhaustion. And there she was, a few metres away. Syra was closing in on me. I sank deeper against the dank wall, but there was no escape.
Darman, do not be afraid.
Leave me alone. Get away. I'm scared.
I won't harm you. I can't harm you. I'm only a limb without a torso. I belong to Limberex, but no one will take me to them.
I could see now why I didn't pay to be too eager on your first day at the Limberex Corporation.
Darman, take me back, please.
I can't. I'm supposed to retrieve limbs, not get hassled by them.
Am I hassling you? I'm sorry.
Don't cry. Please, don't cry. Here, a tissue.
Thank you.
It was the least I could do. It was odd, though. I'd never seen a weeping arm before. Before I could even refuse her again, I found myself wiping away her tears. It was quite sweet, really. Made me think perhaps I had been too harsh in my judgment of her. But it was just the shock. That's what had made me run. Syra wasn't a monster. She was just an arm without a body. Perhaps this was why Lehman had been so cagey, and why Mr. Ziegler only gave the job to new recruits once they had proved themselves. After all, it probably took a keen mind and a strong stomach to tackle this assignment. You can keep the tissue.
Thank you. Are you still scared?
No. So are you the package?
Yes. I expect I seem hideous to you.
No! No, of course not.
You are sweet, but you ran just like the others. Oh, why will no one take me back?
I don't know. I suppose I could help you, but first, tell me who you are and how you came to be. Just a limb.
Not just a limb, Darman. A limb with feelings, if you please.
Sorry.
You are a kind man, Darman. None have asked about me before. Are you married?
Happily, with one son. Go on.
You've met my mother, Madame Grotowski.
Your mother? Yes, a most eccentric woman.
She cannot help it. She's been mad with worry for years. It is not easy for her having a limb for a daughter. Tell me, did she speak of me?
She said to take good care of you and that you deserved some goodness.
Then she does still care, even though she has not wanted to see me for 9.5 years. I wasn't always like this, Darman.
What happened?
A limb collector, just like yourself. He came. He was eager. It was his first assignment. Oh, we were very poor in those days, especially when Father died. Mother had been ill and we were going to lay poor Grilby off, so we had little choice but to seek financial assistance.
But why Limbrex? What about your local high street television channel?
We exhausted our credit rating with nearly every major broadcaster in the UK. We were desperate. Limbrex offered us easy money. It was Mother who made the first sacrifice.
Her rise? Oh, heavens!
Yes, but they only earned enough to keep the estate going for a further 6 months. Therefore other sacrifices had to be made. Although Grilby did volunteer, bless him, he was far too old and frail to be of use to the third world country.
Poor man. So you made the ultimate sacrifice. Would I for Deanna, I wonder?
Deanna? Oh, a lovely name. Oh, how bitter this all is. How he tricked me, saying he would come back for me, but instead he kept sending others who he knew would fail. He didn't want me back, had no intention of reuniting me with my false self.
Is your full self at Limbrex?
Who knows? But I'm sure it's not assisting a third world country, as Limbrex would have us believe.
But I don't understand why they left an arm.
Because an arm speaks its mind. Or rather, this arm does. No, it was better to leave me behind, rather than incur my wrath at Limbrex. Do not be alarmed, Darman. It is not bitterness that fuels me, but truth. We have to expose this man and this corporation for the cowards that they are.
Hold on. I'm here to retrieve you, not assist in an act of revenge. If you intend making waves, I could lose my job. And I need the Grooners.
What are Grooners compared to justice? Besides, you would be doing your job. You were sent to bring me back. And that is what you are doing. Only he didn't expect you to do it.
Who? Who is he?
Anton Ziegler, of course. The man who parted me from myself.
My boss. Head of lower limb recoveries. But he mentioned I had the potential.
The potential, yes. You have, but be wary. Maybe it was not such a good idea to take me back.
I don't understand.
You would if you closely examined your contract.
But I did. I do.
Come. Maybe I ought to reacquaint myself with Mr. Ziegler, and perhaps at the same time I can save you.
Do I need saving? You're beginning to scare me again. I always examine contracts, always. Maybe I ought to leave you here, scaring me like that. Then it would serve you right.
No, you cannot leave me. But if you must, I shall merely crawl back into my box and wait for the next limb collector.
Hang on, you've changed your tune all of a sudden. 1 minute you want me to take you to Limbrex, the next you want to scuttle back to your box. I don't understand this. I don't, unless... It's more than just my job that's at stake here. Isn't it, Seller? Tell me more about the small print that I couldn't make out even with the aid of an interstellar satellite telescope. Tell me.
Be calm, Darman. Don't get too excited.
I am not getting excited. But something's wrong and I must find out. Deanna would never forgive me if I got mixed up in anything bad.
Fighting talk. Bravo. What's up?
Just waiting for my stomach to be calm, for one thing. And so, with a feeling of queasiness tinged with a hint of boldness, I ventured back into the Limbrex Corporation. What Seller had said about the small print was playing heavily on my mind. What had I signed up to? I paused and thought of Seller. Poor Seller, who had wept in the alley and was now nuzzling peacefully inside my overcoat. What had I done? Did she really want to be returned?
Limberex Corporation, 39th floor, Prosthetic Body Parts Department. All of those disembarking here, have a good day.
Bless you. You okay in there?
Lovely and warm. It's a nice coat. How are you?
Ask me when this is all over.
Limberex Corporation, 99th floor, Mr. Zeger's office. All those disembarking here, have a super great day.
I'll try. So here I was, back in Anton Zeger's office, and thanks to Syra's warning, it didn't seem all that inviting anymore. Would Mr. Zeger now try and claim that I was one of the 97% who had failed him? I trembled, and felt Syra tremble also. Zeger stood up and came forward, his big, fat fingers clutching at a large cigar.
Darman, you're back. Well, did you accomplish the Grotowski assignment? Did you accomplish it?
Syra, be still.
What was that? I can't hear you. Speak up, man. Speak up.
Well, you see, Mr. Zeger...
Yes, I thought so. Limbless just like the other 97% of them. Oh, dear, Mr. Sharman. I thought you of all people would have succeeded with the Grotowski assignment, especially after this morning's display of brilliance. How could I have been so wrong? How could I have been so wrong?
Yes, how could you have been? You who had my potential all sewn up from the minute I walked into this corporation.
I beg your pardon, Mr. Sharman.
I'd like to ask you a question, if I may, Mr. Zeger.
Really? I don't think you've earned that right. You haven't earned that right.
Darman.
What are you up to, Darman? What are you up to?
I'm up to nothing unlike you, and there really is no need to shout. Your office may be as big as an aircraft hangar, but I can still hear you.
You are an insolent man. Be quiet now or you'll pay the price.
Yes, the price. What actually is the price for limb collectors who don't collect any limbs?
Are you threatening me, Mr. Sharman?
No. I just want to know what happens if I don't complete the Grotowski assignment.
Ah, then you admit you failed.
I admit nothing.
Either you completed the assignment or you haven't. Which is it?
What would I have to surrender? An arm? A leg? Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Zeger, but this time I'm keeping my body parts. Thank you very much.
Good God! Then you did complete.
Hello, Anton. Let me out, Darman. I feel strangulated under your coat.
Syra, you've come back.
Lower me gently, Darman. That's it. It's been a long time, Anton, but you knew one day that I would return.
Of course. All it needed was the right limb collector. Sadly.
Easy, Syra. Not too close. He might be...
Armed? I don't think so.
It's all right, Darman. I can take care of myself.
Keep away from me. Keep away. Welcome home, Syra. Welcome home.
What's going on? Syra, what is this?
You've done it, Darman. You've made it to the top 3%. You're in the elite.
You've passed the test not many do.
Test?
More of an initiation ceremony.
Great. So I get to keep my limbs then?
Oh, Syra, you told him. How could you? I always enjoy that bit. The poor 97%. The blood drains from their face.
Hold on. Is this some kind of scam?
Not a scam, Darman. Please let us explain.
What is there to explain? The Grotowski assignment is just an elaborate plot to obtain more limbs from your own staff. It's outrageous. It's scandalous. It's
no big deal, Darman. You passed. Your limbs are safe. Just relax.
A drink?
No, nothing. I feel sick. Madame Grotowski and Grilby, were they involved?
Of course. Former limb collectors themselves. They are now enjoying their retirement in the only way they know how, by serving Limberex to the very end.
Do not be upset, Darman. Limberex has been very good to me, and Anton especially. I owe them my life.
What life? You're just an arm.
You really know how to hurt a limb's feelings, don't you?
I don't care. You tricked me. You all tricked me.
No, Darman, it's not a trick. If only you knew what we had to do to secure good, healthy limbs. Don't you understand? I could have been dead without Limbrex. Thanks to their pioneering technology, they've managed to halt a terrible wasting disease that has plagued me and countless others like me for years. Without Limbrex, none of us would have stood a chance in this disease-ridden world.
Stop it. More lies, more tricks. Let me out of here.
Darman, please. Understand what it's like out there in the world of limb transplantation. It's all about supply and demand, and the demand is greater than our supply. We have to use certain measures. But believe me, the rewards more than compensate, as you're about to find out.
I don't want reward. To think if I'd failed. No. Don't think. Don't. I want out. I want out now.
Then you are prepared to starve again.
If I have to.
You can't leave.
You're too valuable to us. You've demonstrated the necessary qualities. We can't let you go.
And besides, you've signed a contract.
I signed it under false pretences.
It'll take you years to prove it. And you know how costly the legal system is.
Darman, stay. We need people like you. Good people, dedicated people.
No.
Then there is only one other option if you truly want your freedom.
A price must be paid.
Clause 12, subsection 31A of your contract. The one clause that no one gets until it's too late.
Clause 12, subsection 31A states that if an employee who succeeds to the highest level of limb collecting, namely making it to the top 3%, may exercise the right to forfeit his limb collecting obligations if he or she donates a limb of their choosing, such limb to be healthy but not necessarily from the body of the said limb collector. I like that clause. I wrote it myself many years ago when I was head of legal affairs.
That's outrageous. If I stay, I'm forced to collect limbs, and if I leave, you take one of mine. You won't get away with this.
We already have. For years.
We're helping third world countries. We have government backing.
So, what is it to be?
My exit. Goodbye.
Not quite. Now, what were you and your lovely family having for tea this evening? Perhaps we should ask Mrs. Sharman.
And then they played their final trump card. Behind a glass screen, they had Deanna tied to a chair.
You have a lovely wife.
She has lovely arms.
Darman, don't do it.
That's my wife. Let her out of there at once.
Not until you've made your decision. And your decision has to be in accordance with the contract you signed. So it's up to you.
I'll kill you.
Darman, please.
And then I realised if they were capable of taking my wife. Oh, heavens! What have you done with Tumin?
It's okay, Darman. He's safe.
A lovely child, with arms just beginning to ripen.
You limb freak!
Put it down, Darman.
That bowl was expensive.
Stay away from me and my family.
Impenetrable glass. You're not the first to try that. Now, what is it to be? Faithful loyalty to the corporation, or a noble exit, minus a limb of your choosing? Your choice. But do hurry, the hour is late, and my table at the Ritz awaits.
Darman, please help us.
No, Darman, you mustn't. I love you.
And I love you too.
Oh, how sweet.
Okay. As you wish. I'm sorry, Dee.
No!
And as you can see from the policy, Mr. and Mrs. Galander...
I can't see anything, old chap. It appears to be written in some form of ancient script.
And you'd be an expert on ancient script, would you? Ah, only kidding. Here, let me go over it one more time. God, it's very warm in here. Do you mind if I take off my coat?
Not at all. Maylin, bring Mr. Sharman a nice glass of cold, refreshing lavender milk.
Certainly. Oh, Mr. Sharman, your arm.
It's nothing. A little accident a few months back.
I hope you got plenty of compensation.
I did. In fact, I'm just working out my notice till I start my new job as head of upper limb recoveries. A most prestigious post within Limbrex, I can tell you.
Really? How exciting.
Upper limb.
Oh, don't be such a scaredy puss, Moulin. He's referring to prosthetic limbs.
Quite. So real you'd almost want one of your own. Now, your contract. I think we agreed 90,000 grooners.
Sure. Where do I sign?
Now, just to remind you, should either of you happen to default on your repayments, then... No, what am I saying? You're good people. You're not likely to default on your payments now, are you?
No, of course not.
Splendid. Then if you'd kindly sign here. And here. And finally here. Excellent. Oh, and may I just say what a lovely carpet you both have. Almost the same colour as ours.
Thank you. We like the colour because it's particularly good at hiding stains.
Indeed. Always a good idea to get a carpet that hides stains. Good idea indeed.
You have been listening to Tom Brierley as Darman, Geoff Meddleton as Ziegler, Philippa Stuart as Seller, Olwen Holme as Madame Grotowski, Robert Hardy as Grilby, Sue Ford as Deanna, Rob Chantler and Syra Kingsley as Mr. and Mrs. Salminder, and Doug Neal and Helen Neal as Mr. and Mrs. Galander. Out on a Limb was written by Eddie Coleman. It was produced and directed by Robert Chantler and was a Free Theatre Company production.